Thanks for tuning in. This is the 20th episode of the Magnetic Podcast. We have some stellar guests on. I kind of feel like we're going to end that streak today, though, because these guys are not so great. Just kidding. Ben and Mark, just paying attention to backstage to see if they're listening. Have the pleasure to know each other a little bit and call it the personal side of work life. Ben and Mark are two guys who are on a fucking mission. This is no-code DevOps and Cloud Ops. We hear a lot about DevOps. Everybody goes, what the fuck is DevOps? If you work in DevOps or anywhere around the cloud or software, you know what it is. And you're probably one of those people who are listening today. So we have one goal of today. So if you're going to keep listening, you want to pay attention. Goal of today will be to understand how you create content, where to put it from a channel perspective. Where do you get your ideas from when you're in a channel that isn't, sales and marketing like everybody else? There's these niche markets out there. Ben and Mark have been fun to listen to, fun to kind of follow along and get an appetite for what their interests are. Ben and Mark, welcome to the Magnetic Podcast. How are you guys doing?
How you doing, Steve? Good.
Doing good. Well, it'd be weird if I said I'm doing terrible, because that would be like the awkward next 47 minutes would be really awkward if I was like, I'm doing shitty. So I'm doing great, doing better that you guys are here. Codiac.io is your company. Let's cut right to the chase. How did you two meet each other? And then why the hell did you create a company together?
You want to take that?
No, go ahead, man. Take it.
Well, we met each other doing a project. I was working at a startup, and it got bought by a big company. Ben came in right around the time of that transition, and
Was
we
Ben the
went
big
through
company?
small company, crack group gets bought by a large company, and then that kind of transition is always a little rocky. And Ben and I kind of walked right through that little gauntlet together with a new team and everything. Worked for them for a couple of years and came out after that with plenty of ideas about what we wanted to do. And then we came across basically a little bit of experience with Kubernetes and a couple dipping the hand a little bit in some higher tech, some more newer tech. And we realized, wow, there's a lot of opportunities out there specifically for DevOps. And we'll take it from there, Ben.
Yeah, we kept in touch with each other after our first project. And we had the same hatred and passion for hating on DevOps. So I remember the day I put my house up for sale to start this company because of it. It was like a lightning strike. I can't tell you how much I hate DevOps. So, I really wanted to solve it.
The hatred for DevOps, is it that the model itself in DevOps is broken, stagnant, legacy? Does it eat up money? Where is the real rub with it?
All the things.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. It's all those things. It was 10, 15 years ago, very forward-thinking set of patterns that were eliminating a lot of problems and creating a lot of opportunity based on where we were at the time. And that idea and those sets of ideas and those pioneers built something and built a pattern that everybody's been following ever since. But it's gotten old and tired, and it's become more and more complicated. You give somebody a full-time job doing something, they're going to make an interesting thing out of it, and then they're going to need to hire people underneath them to expand that task. And that's kind of what happened with DevOps. It really snowballed. And it's at a point now where, back when we started this company, I just said, look, I have to do this stuff for any company I want to start. And I know how to do this better. I've got some real good ideas about how we can actually make a shift here. Mm-hmm. I can't, in good faith or in good conscience, subject myself to all that other stuff while building these next companies without getting this stuff done. And so basically I said, look, I don't want to do software like this anymore. Yeah. Either I'm going to step up and step out into management, mm-hmm. or I want to have a go at this and fix this and make it more interesting.
Mark, okay, so I'm all excited because I know Mark's not the kind of guy to be like, fuck yeah. But I know inside, getting to know Mark, that got me pumped up. Because Mark, Ben, you said you listed your house. Guy. And you guys are going on a mission. And to me, that is it's like the lead bullet of a founder, right? Like you're as sharp as the edge of a bullet, but the weight of the obsession with the mission can sometimes lead to great things like this company. And I want you to talk about that, Ben. So great, you formed a company, but it wasn't that easy. You didn't just look at each other and be like, man, I like your shit. I'm going to go list my house. I'll see you tomorrow. Like, walk me through that, like, oh shit moment of like, fuck, okay, I'm all in.
Yeah. So it's several years ago, but yeah, I was doing consulting work, really big name here in Houston,
gas and
working
oil
with
company.
some data scientists. Do what?
Was it a gas and oil company? You said Houston, so of course I had to ask.
It may have, yes. We'll leave the name unnamed, but
go.
it was in the energy industry, and I was working with some data science projects and working with these teams, and it was constantly getting in my way. DevOps was, and the concept of DevOps versus the implementation of DevOps is two very different things, right? And so like this concept of like, oh yeah, the developer, puts stuff up in the cloud. We do all this automation stuff, and everybody's responsible for it, and we just do it as a team. It's like, dude, that's bullshit. That's not how that works. And it, anyways, time, money, risk, all these things got in my way. And so that, when we talk about, hey, Mark, I'm going to put my fucking house up for sale. That was after a lot of conversations with him of like phone call after like daily, twice a day, 3 times a day. He was in Tampa, I was in Houston, and we were just constantly sort of working through these designs, working through this concept, working through what the product would look like, how it would work. And we knew, given our history, we could build it. We knew we could.
Yep.
And so it was like, it was that, I hate to say quintessential, but it was sort of those quintessential startup, almost cliche, like,
sure,
yeah, this is our life-changing moment here. I think we can do this. And there's just nothing out there solving the problem this way. So let's just go for it. And we did. So sold the house in 26 days, moved the family to the country in
locked
an
them
RV.
up, moved into the country, locked them up in a
Family
tiny
of 4 in an
little home and
RV.
said, that's amazing. For real though, you went to RV?
For real.
I fucking love RVs.
Mark
that is
rented
amazing.
all his stuff out. He
There was
moved
a-
all
there was an
his stuff to.
afternoon-
Yeah.
There was an afternoon we talked, like Ben said, we talked about this quite a bit, and then there was an afternoon where Ben called me, and he's like, "We got a buyer,"
Yes.
and I thought, all that stuff we were talking about, yeah, that was all kind of cool. I guess I have to actually do it.
Yes.
There's no backing out of it at this point. There's no like, well, that was kind of a good idea, but not really. No, it was game time at that point. It was really for me, that was a really interesting moment, and that was a matter of a couple weeks for me. I packed up my stuff, moved into my RV, moved my RV out to Texas, and
both had
brought the
RVs.
dog
That's
and
why you
hooked
get
up.
along. You've RV people.
We wanted to cut
wasn't-
the costs, right? So it was all about brain cycles, right? So if you're focused on your finances and you're
Yes.
worried about your next meal,
Yes.
you can't fucking think about the difficulties of this complex problem we're solving. So
That's right.
I don't regret it to this day. It was miserable.
Yeah.
And some days it was fucking awful, but I don't regret it to this day. Like the amount of quiet time that we had for those first couple of years doing stealth mode development was critical for this product and for this company.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's actually a point that we feel really strongly about too. We've talked about this quite a bit, that you could handle, first of all, the job that we're handling. We're going to try to attempt DevOps from a completely different angle. We're going to do something that a lot of large companies get 5-15 million to start a company on. We're doing it on a shoestring.
Right.
We're cutting our daily budget down to this so that we can stretch it out as long as we can. You really need to have a team of people that know what they're doing, try to eliminate as much of the communication as you need to, try to cut back on the mythical man month, for instance, the management overhead and the loss of fidelity that comes from having to bring an idea through 15 layers of people. You want to say, hey, we've got the 2 brains. These guys work together. They know how to get the job done and how to make a POC, a proof of concept happen.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of back and forth. Let's try this. Hey, look at what people are doing. You know what we can do? Let's take a look at that. How long would that take? When you don't know how long you're going to be doing that, and you're going up against some of the biggest forces, embedded, entrenched forces in the industry, you have to have that runway. You got to have that knowing that I don't have this massive overhead bill to meet this month. I'm going to be fine. So let's keep on with this thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. A lot of people, Ben, would say, so what? You sold your house. I don't care. Like, good for you. And I always say, I don't think a lot of founders are doing this to get up on a stage and say, look what I did. I think it comes down to this obsession to solve a problem. And that's sort of not what they want on their tombstone, but like right next to the family and the good man, they would not mind change fucking DevOps forever. Like that's kind of the obsession level you have to have, I think. Would you argue that point?
I can argue that point all day. The forces that be, if we went out and fundraised on the idea, we probably could have done that, you know, and we probably would have failed within the first year, right? Like we would have burned right through that cash with nothing to show for it. And so this company is based on this idea of like, we're not going to settle for some sloppy piece of shit. You know, we're not building a competitor product just to be a competitor, right? Like, I don't want to be a competitor. I want to be so far off on the chart in the upper right-hand corner of the quadrant, because I mean, we have this problem right now. Like, why isn't Kodiak like this? Like Kodiak is like this, right? No. Is Kodiak's like this? No. Kodiak's like, well, Kodiak does it like this company. No, it doesn't. And so we're constantly fighting that tide. And that's why content matters to us so much. Cause like, damn, we keep getting, you know, pigeonholed as, oh, you do it like this, you do that, you know, you don't do this or that. And it took us getting customers, solving our customers' problems for sort of the people around us to finally see and realize how big a shift this is. Like everybody's going on the faith of two guys, Ben and Mark. My wife is going on the faith of, you know, Ben and Mark, you know, and it's like, why is this different? Why aren't you guys like Harness? Why aren't you guys like this? It's like, I could say all the words in the world and you wouldn't get it. But then you get a customer and they're like getting shit done. And everything that we conceptualize from day one is happening. You know, that idea of like, do we really need a DevOps engineer full time to do some of the most complex things in the industry? Maybe not, you know, and now we have customers that prove that.
Yeah.
Now we have customers that show like, you know what? We actually, Kodiak can, you know, take this off the plate for a lot of things. And yeah, we need some DevOps still. Can be self-service now. The API developer can do it now. And like everybody can have a hand in it. So that big shift of like, hey, DevOps is a exclusive party for technical people. That's bullshit. Yeah. And I don't subscribe to it. And that's what this company is built on.
Yeah.
Right.
This is interesting. Technical people. So I was listening to a podcast the other night. I'd love to just converse about this with you. Your founders. This gentleman is a founder, founded some successful ventures. His name's Mark Cuban. He said, I taught myself to code. He's like, you just fucking do it. And he said, when you want something done badly enough, which his invention was voice over the internet, right? Because they were talking about it on a podcast like, oh, it's the inventor of the podcast, Mark Cuban, because nobody else gave a shit about a voice file on the internet. They're like, why the voice on the internet? No, man, we just want data. We want the Oregon Trail or whatever. And it was really interesting to hear him talk about his businesses in such a simplistic form. When they said, well, what is this company? Microtech. What do they do? He's like, we fix, we develop software. We write code. We fix code. Why did you do it? There was a market need. So there was no obsession about that for him. The obsession for him is basketball. He said, so for him, he just did it because he was like, fuck, this is easy. I write code. I do it. We make a business. The business makes money. I like that. I start business too. And then he's on Shark Tank. Then he's sitting half court. And I'm like, God, this guy's got to be exhausted. And yet he's just fired up. Is that fuel? Like, walk me through that fuel line for you guys, because this is going to come into our content questions, which I think it's important because you can be sitting there all day, getting deep in the weeds on this, and all of a sudden you got to pull up for an hour content session. Like, does that give you juice, or does that feel like more work to you?
There's a lot of different types in DevOps, and there's people just like you described that they do it because it's a job. It's an 8 to 5. You know, that career line exists, and especially for a lot of the companies that are entrenched right now, with DevOps all over the place. They've got millions and millions and millions invested in it. They're not going anywhere with a lot of these solutions. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty secure job for the time being. But then there's people like Ben and me who are like, I want to build something. I mean, I'm not in software for the 8 to 5. I'm in software because I chose to be here. I switched careers. I was an engineer.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I actually want to write software because it's just plain cool. But what's really interesting about it is the things that you can do. Like today, when you find out like, hey, he's a product of the 21st century. Well, that means a lot today. It's like, well, there is so much opportunity. There are so many incredible technologies. Why are we not just incredibly luminescent beings walking around right now?
Yes.
And that's in walks DevOps. It's like, well, let's get real. The reality of what you think you're gonna build over the weekend, well, that's not really gonna happen. You might be able to build a little POC that maybe turns the green light on, but the reality of trying to build something that's reliable and get a software product out and scale it and take advantage of all those things that we're talking about, that is dry as a desert. That is a lot of meticulous work and a lot of detail. Like Ben said, a lot of time, money, and risk. I mean, there are many, many zeros attached to it. And the thing that really, really sort of drives me about it is that like the field of DevOps celebrates all of that tech and detail. It's the place you go, unlike any other product evolution I've ever heard of. Like, it's the place you go that says, over time, we don't become more consumer friendly, and it doesn't become DevOps isn't a wearable that you just simply talk to and walk around with anymore. Like that, it's actually gone in the other direction. It's become more and more and more complex. You open that door into the DevOps industry, you are looking at just a maelstrom of detail, and it's evolving all over the place. And we're looking at it going, look, I'm trying to build a product. Why isn't that easy? These are things that have been science. It was, like we said, 15, 20 years ago, these were very cutting edge, creative solutions. Today, everybody's doing it. Like, you get a lot of dopamine from solving a DevOps problem because it's hard. Hey, I finally got that thing to work. What was it? Oh, I found on this site, on this page, at this place, this guy figured out this really weird key combination you got to plug in, and it made the thing work. Okay, great. Good for you. Where are you? What did you just develop? Where did you just bring us as a species? Well, nowhere, because I just did what 320 million people in the world do every day. Like, it's hard, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
We're just maintaining status quo. It's not interesting.
Oh, that was a fucking loaded answer. Ben was like, "You go, Mark." Like that was, I loved it, man.
That's who he is, man.
There.
No,
Mark is
like,
one of the most passionate, charged up. Like he does this shit to me on a daily basis.
I love it.
Great.
I'm pumped about DevOps. I don't even know what the fuck it is necessarily, and I'm sitting here going, "Yeah, I do know what it is." Kubernetes. Like we hear all these things.
Well, it's funny because like I got some experience this past year or so doing, being on the revenue side of the Codiac house, and I got into RevOps, and I got into the tooling, and I got into marketing tools, and I was like, holy shit, it's over here too.
Oh yeah.
Like the same fucking problem.
Just bleeding.
I was like,
just making shit.
I like chaining tools together and taking spreadsheets from here and over there and data, migration crap, and this CSV doesn't work with that CSV, and oh my God, it was awful. And I was like, oh, this is a pattern. We're all just, the explosion of technologies, especially in the startup land, has just made all software companies just live with it. Like just live with it. We'll go fund that, get a team, and have that team just do
it. Do that thing where you make the
twist the
software
wires,
88%,
twist those wires
profitable.
in the background, so I can go sell. Right? Like, let me put a team of 4 here to twist the wires, so I can go sell. Like,
I want to share with you guys, get your comments on this. I was back in Outreach in 2017. Phenomenal company. Manny taught himself to engineer, code. I kind of think it was for photo opportunities because he would be coding next to the guys, and then the next day he'd be like, "And today I'm SDRing," and I'm like, no, today you're CEOing and you're raising money and this is cool shit. But like that content, I still feel was a secret and the competitive differentiator between us and SalesLoft. Now, SalesLoft was the other company. That guy, Kyle Porter, doing just fine. Sold his company exited, $1 billion deal, but we were the two deals. It was like, hey, do you want outreach or SalesLoft? And keep in mind, when I'm bringing up RevOps, this is when this automation of email was, whoa, high first name can now say Ben. There was not the idea of I could name a restaurant in your town or anything stupid like that. It was just, hey, I can send 100 of these things out. Like 17 people are dumb enough to respond. And I can send as many as I want. And so the point going back to content, though, is we never sold as much as Manny did. Because Manny would get on the mic, do content before content was content, right? He would take splices of Zoom call, post it up, and people would say, holy shit. He would say, hey, guys, tell me what user upgrades you really want. Tell me what your biggest problems are. Tell me where you want us to go. And they became the developers platform where SalesLoft went to the vanilla, buttoned itself up for a nice IPO, right? Outreach was like, let's get fucking weird. Still not IPO'd, actually going backwards now. Because they developed this thing that's so complex. Most people don't need it anymore because it got to be so specific. And then voila, AI came out and they're like, fuck it, we don't need that. Yep. Let's just take the lower cost one. And I feel like if I had to look at one of the bigger missteps I see, again, phenomenal company, phenomenal product, doesn't matter. The economy says too much money, too many players. Someone on that investment board's going, what the fuck? Because what happened is this, and this is the powerful moment. Outside of the technical part was the connection that Kyle Porter chose to make when he went on a tour, he had his assistant say, code this to say, when I'm going here, find customers that we have automatically in a pipeline, automate emails to them and say, I'm coming to town. And he said, and then keep doing it. And he did a road show for 53 places. He met people face to face, said, what do you want to see? Da, da, da. And he said, through that, we learned that people didn't really want a technical product. They just wanted to talk about technical things. And we would usually talk them out of them and say, well, if we did that, we couldn't do this. If you want a power dialer to do 10 lanes, well, we really can't do email well. So which one do you want? And I feel like the fact that he exited with $1 billion as sale, IPO, go, I don't know, a lot of money, seems like that was a good idea. And that's what I'm saying. The content piece, both simplifying the delivery of a very complex product still, but also getting out and humanizing his reach to those customers and prospects by call it the town halls, the human touches, the coffees, I feel are what made all the difference in the world. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's paramount, especially for, take, all the things that about Kodiak. It's like, we're just now embarking into truly reaching out, but that product led focus, that customer led focus, like what you're describing there is customer led focus. Like, dude, we are the champions of the product. We're the ones that will take care of the product, and we're not going to let it slip into some sloppy, thrown together thing, because we'll just be like all the other competitors. But at the same time, you still have to listen to your customers or potential customers. Like, and I love the what you mentioned about unselling them out of a feature. Like, we have to do that all the time.
Yeah.
Like Mark's the best at it because
former engineer.
Mark's usually the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And, they'll say something, oh, well, I'm trying to do this or that. I'm trying, and it's like, yeah, but why? Why don't, you just need to change, and you'll follow it right in the system. And we already built Codiac to support this way that you're not doing. But yeah, that type of content is really important for us going forward. Mark has, getting Mark on a series of like, not even doing product demos necessarily, but more of conceptual, like, hey, here's the phase shift between the old way and the new way, right? Whether you use Codiac or not, you might want to use these patterns.
Yeah.
Whether whether you do, things like this, you might want to shift your thinking. There's a different concept now that you need to go research. Putting out that type of content is absolutely paramount. We want to be the company that, obviously we're going to do sales and demos and things like that, but you should be able to go find Kodiak, go find a video, hit try it, solve a problem, and then all of a sudden you're a fan.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed.
That's cool. Now, Mark, I'm going to go back over to you because you have this unique. You both have said, well, we're way different, right? Ben, you've got a pretty focused idea of what you're going to want to do. Mark, it's not that you're not focused. I would say, God, I loved it when he was talking. He kind of stood up on his toes a little bit, and I was like, he gives a big shit. And when people
Soapbox king
care that much, like it's almost impossible to fail. Now, I've also been on the other side where I care so much that all I can do is fail because like I'm not taking the hints. I didn't have a co-founder, right? So I'd always kind of beat myself up and go, gee, Steve, what do you think? I'd be like, great fucking idea. And so talk to me, Mark, when you're talking from Mark's mouth, whether that's in an explainer series or in a demo, how much are you concerned with what would Ben think? Or are you just like, I don't give a shit. We say the same thing. Like it is just, it's he is I and I is him.
You don't give a shit. No, I'm kidding. We do think a lot alike about a lot of stuff. I think that, we tend to focus on slightly different things, but there's mostly overlap in our, our approach to a lot of this. I mean, again, you were talking about tech and how people love tech and they love, but they're not crazy about a technical product. That's really relevant here because I absolutely love technology and I hang around with and have worked with and I'm in an industry with a whole lot of people that love technology. So why the hell would I not want to get in there and get meticulous and get super tech? I mean, the whole goal of this thing is to try to decrease the tech aspect of this. Why? Why would you want to do that? And it's like, well, at every step of evolution, you've got a chance to take advantage of something new and evolve into the new thing. I mean, one of the things that really I started seeing happening in general in software. I've said this a couple times before. Like I was doing a lot of interviewing, and you ask typically in an interview, like, "Well, what's the biggest thing you bring to the table as an engineer?" And what I kept hearing was, "Well, I know how to get out there and learn frameworks really easy and quickly and get them tied together, and that's really the value that I bring to the team." And I'm like, "Well, I was taught, and maybe because I had really great mentors, as an engineer, the value that you're going to bring to the table is." You're the guy who's been weathered. You've tried things out. You've got judgment. You've got experience, and you're the one that can say, "Hey, I can take that idea that you're dreaming up, and I can make it robust enough and put it out in a way that can actually make it real." And I'm that guy, hopefully, that you're gonna want to have in the room that you can say, "Well, what do you think about this?" And we can get our team on the right track because a good path was taken toward that thing. If you're a guy who's like, "Hey, I learned how to write code last week, and so I'm going to go build an enterprise product." You're going to build a Rube Goldberg machine that nobody's going to be able to manage and nobody's going to be able to scale. And it's going to be, well, back to DevOps, it's going to be extremely difficult to manage. And that is one of those things that a good solution-based, technology-loving engineer craftsman wants to be doing is like, hey, I don't want to be screwing something in using tools from 1886. I want to be using the best tools of the day to take advantage of the biggest, newest dragon that I can go out and slay and bring all that gold back to my team. Well, what is that? Well, if I'm stuck doing what we were doing 10 years ago, that's not good for anybody. I don't care how technical it is. What we're trying to do is say, look, there's value out there, really awesome things that we can go get a hold of. And I don't want to waste my time getting a hold of them. Don't keep me from that tech. I can't do that tech. I can't do that thing that we want to do. Well, because it's too many man hours away and we're too busy right now, so we can't do that. It's like, no, man, get a tool that puts you up there, that gets you the ability to take advantage of that thing so you can move on to better things. That's really cool technology. And that's something that engineers that are in that space, that are following that approach, they get off on it every day. It's just awesome.
Let's say I'm a founder, and a founder, bootstrap company. So I'm just going to make this person up. I'm in Queens, New York. I mean, I've got 200K my mommy and daddy gave me. I'm developing this software, and I've got some guy in DevOps I found on, I don't know, go down the list of Angel List, wherever. I met a lot of these people, by the way. Done a few deals with them. It doesn't always end well. But I go, fuck, man, we got to do DevOps, right? My boy, Brody, I just did lunch with him. So who are you guys working with for DevOps? You need DevOps, right? Where do I even turn to go? Like, I got one guy coding software here. I think I'm sniffing out some money. When do I need DevOps? And why would I need DevOps? Walk me through and act like that was a dumb question, because it was. But there's a lot of dumb, non-technical founders who are not. They are like me. They're builders. They have great concepts, right? And then they sit down with somebody who can code some software and think they're going to go build something. At what point do I want to start to get serious about DevOps? And keep in mind, money's a thing. Don't have a lot of it. 200K, going to burn a hole through my pocket. Do I need DevOps? Is it only if I make it? Walk me through that.
You're asking the wrong two guys. It's a simple answer. It's day one.
Yeah.
Right. So like, get on a platform that can grow with you and grow with your business. Like day one. Like, and so this is actually a great question, because we to fundraise to keep Codiac afloat, we did a lot of consulting services. So we did a lot of software development for other companies, and a lot of them, well, a couple of them were starting from zero. They were like Brody, like, oh yeah, I got $200,000. Let's go build something. And they hired us to do it, and we did it for them. And it's always that first question of like, it's a very astute question, because, we go tell our customers at the time, we need to spend money on not software, but provisioning shit in the cloud. Like, so first things first, we got to go spin up some stuff in the cloud for you. We're going to bill you for that. So that's step one. Step two is, now we're going to start writing code and getting you something to see and use and play with. Right. But
V1.
like the first tranche of money, you don't even get to see what happened to it. We're going to bill you for it. We're going to chart, we're going to take your credit card and create a cloud,
like $50,000 just
account.
gone.
Yeah. Just poof, just gone. Because we had to DevOps first, right? We had to create these things just so we could get software to run on the cloud. And so when do they have to focus on DevOps? It's immediately. Yeah. Like, at some way, shape, or form, at some level, they have to think about DevOps immediately. That's why, we were so adamant early on of like, no, we want Codiac to be the any man's DevOps tool, right? Weekend project, weekend warrior, to enterprise, companies that, we want to be able to support Pluto TV and the guy that just is trying to throw together a Raspberry thing.
That's me, the second one, not Pluto TV. So hold on. I like asking dumb questions because I can act like they're not mine and just what everybody else would think. So you'll never know which ones are. But let's say I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, these guys are pretty funny, pretty damn smart. So I can go to Codiac.io and just spin up software. I can just go build my own software. I need to have the idea. Now I can deploy this sort of like I can use your
software
tools.
to run.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So once you have some software to run, you throw it in Codiac.
Yep.
Codiac will throw it up to the cloud for you. The difference is, and everybody listening would be like, well, dude, you can do that with a ton of different tools. And they're right. It's true. What the difference is Codiac is a platform that it covers you on day one DevOps, and there's a thing called day two DevOps, right? Day two DevOps is my weekend project took off, and it's wildfire, and I'm selling the hell out of it, and I'm growing my teams, and features are coming in. I've added 10 developers, 50 developers.
I'm like mowing the lawn in the background, having a seizure,
developers.
like listening to this, going like, this would be such a great problem to have. You're like, we've got orders.
It would be insanely cool.
Yeah.
And it does happen.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not as fast as that, but it does happen. These companies grow, and they grow out of their shoes.
Yeah.
And they grow out of their
mostly
DevOps
consumer,
shoes.
Mostly consumer products. Is that when that growth happens so quick?
B2B
Really?
does it too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Because like Mark was saying earlier, like 5-10 years ago, you would build these things and it was great for when it was. And then, you just kind of leave it and it kind of mothballs and it just collects dust. Mm-hmm. And then your systems kind of just grow out of it, or your teams grow out of it. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing with Codiac is like, I would be hard pressed to find a company that would grow out of Codiac, because we sit on a particular type of technology that is intently built to scale, right? Like it was this technology came from Google, right?
Yeah.
Internals of Google is running on this technology.
It's cool as
and
hell,
all we
man.
did, we said, yeah, it's great. Like it's really fucking cool, because like you go to Google Maps or you go to Google whatever, and it's like, man, how do they have such snappy web pages? How do things how are they returning
Can
me?
they see me in the shower right now on the Google?
Yeah.
Meet?
How are they sending me back 280,000, results in a split second? Well, it's this technology called Kubernetes. And it's like, well, I want that.
Yes.
Why can't I have that? Right. And
tell the world what Kubernetes
and the
is.
answer is it's too difficult. It's too damn hard. Don't do it.
And expensive.
Like and expensive.
Am I splicing
you're going to lose your shirt.
Okay, got it. So I'm just got so much information and an overabundance that only a company as rich as Google would spend the money to build this thing that is probably being built for
in
Elon
DevOps.
Musk.
You'll find a bunch of pragmatic folks, right? Like let's use the right tools for the right size.
Not my crowd.
Let's
too pragmatic.
It's an engineering thing, right? It's like just like Mark said, it's like let's be pragmatic. Let's make sure we solve the problem practically. Let's not go get Kubernetes for your little weekend warrior project. That would be kind of overkill, and it might actually kind of stick you later, right? And Mark and I, that's sort of the whole thesis of Codiac is like, no, bullshit. Kubernetes is the best.
Yeah.
It's run by all the best companies in the world, including Google and Facebook and all the others. Why the hell can't we make it consumer ready, consumable by, any guy? Like Steve should be able to walk into Codiac and be like, okay, I can see how to start using this. Mm-hmm. Like if you can drag and drop, you can use Kubernetes now.
I just learned that today, drag and drop, by the way. That's a new one for me.
Yeah. So
but that's the real deal though, right? Like you're saying I can spin up environments and use your shit, not mine, and have to buy it, right? So I'm essentially leasing all of this enterprise stuff that I normally wouldn't get if I was just.
That's the whole promise. The whole promise is I can act like a $1 billion company.
Yep.
On a shoestring budget.
It's beautiful. Mark, I'm going to go over to you as an engineer. Ben, thank you. 2 questions for you, Mark. The second one's going to drive you insane. Well, let's just keep one right now. I want to drive you insane because you're going to love this. You're going to love it, but I'm going to time box you. My dad was an engineer. I actually love engineers, by the way. My partner's an engineer. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a musician and a church choir director. Like I'm right in the middle of those two, if that's such a thing. Give me the skinny from the IBM mainframe till now. Give me, if I'm a listener, in 60 seconds or so, like where did we start and where are we and why did we get there? And most importantly, where are we going in the world of software development?
In a sense, it hasn't changed at all. We still today are concerned about the exact same things that somebody from 1968 was concerned about. Which version of my software do I have? Where am I deploying it? How much memory and CPU is it using? How much am I paying for it? How many replicas do we need to have out there? How many outboard engines do we need to put on the back of the boat to keep it moving? Those are all the same questions that we're trying to answer. Across all these decades, we get mired in the implementation of all those. And so how we implement servers and how we implement computers and how we write code and all that stuff has changed dramatically from one decade to the next. We've developed a lot of new patterns to help things out. We've developed a lot of new products. We've moved to the cloud. We've done all kinds of stuff. And again, I'm circling this right back to Codiac because this is exactly where we've really come across as a, sort of conceived this company and this product was the idea like, well, what if instead of always getting caught in yet another technology implementation, which happens to be the one today, and it's going to be different in 5 to 10 years from now, what if we said, look, abstract all of that and let's talk to and cater to the intuition of the software owner and those teams of people that operate for that software. So whether it's a QA person, whether it's a CEO, a CTO watching it, somebody who's in the release chain, who's approving different versions, user testing, all those people that don't even write the code, they're all involved in that exact same process, just like they were back in 1969. Like it's the same set of concerns. And so we said, well, look, let's cater exactly to those concerns and take the technology and the implementation details and put them behind the scenes and speak to everybody in the language of software management. And that's what basically we're doing with that product, which is part of why I love it so much, is that me as an engineer and as somebody who's been involved in this, I've had all these concerns. And the thing that was really interesting about where we live today is that with the cloud, with big data, with infrastructure as code, which means I can create infrastructure by writing code, and magically servers appear by just like executing my code. That's incredible, right? Well, there's all these things like that sort of we're living at the confluence of all these things where all those technologies and forces are now available to us. Let's put a product together that sums it all up. And now with software, we do the software business thing that we've been doing for forever in the way that we know to do it. And then we'll just change out the implementations behind the scenes as we go along. That's really, a really good way to look at the Codiac product, because it brings in the rest of the team, and it brings in this idea that, like, look, the implementation concerns are still concerns of engineers that want to specialize in that particular technology because it happens to be a technology of the day. But the software management piece and the ability as a business to grow and get your solution and your vision out there, that set of rules and concerns hasn't changed much. And that's what we're really trying to enable. And we're trying to take and this again, from the technology perspective, from an engineer's perspective, those are incredibly fun problems to solve. And they're also you can, if you aspire toward making it elegant and bringing people where they want to go and enabling them and their finer, more creativity, the concerns that they have and the ideas that they have, bringing that ability to bring that to the table better than it was before. That's super exciting. To say, like, well, I'm somebody that, is a product manager. If you could, as a product manager, walk over the shop floor on the mezzanine and see everything that's going on and understand how things are working and what that next version is doing, and whether that thing happened, whether this person did actually test it today, and did they approve it or not, and who do you have to talk to today to do that? Like we're saying, like, look, that's your job, that's your authority. You should have the tools at your fingertips on an intuitive basis to just get in there and be able to do those things. I just love where it's going. I mean, I love the opportunity that's in there.
This is interesting. So for reference, let's get into the content portion next. We're going to ask you each a couple of content questions. 2010, I believe 2008 was the first iPhone release, right? 2008, 9, 10, something like that. Man, that was weird. It was awesome. I worked at AT&T at the time. And the reason I bring that up is because we were also selling this little thing called the cloud, and it scared the living shit out of everybody. I would walk in front of CTOs at large financial institutions. I had my, $122 million book of business. I was an enterprise account exec. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Like, I would bring the smart people in. They'd look at me like I'm an idiot. I'd get paid more than all of them. I guess I won, but in the end, I get why they hated me. Like, I was the guy, and all the brains flew in from Bedminster and talked about this thing, migrating your Oracle stack to the cloud. And we were selling this virtual meeting room that was only, $1 million a year, but you got to save on travel expenses, powered by Cisco, and like all the networking traumas coming back very quickly, by the way. But I remember I sat there and I was with my VP, and he goes, "Does anybody have any questions after the sales meeting?" And I didn't think about, like, everybody's like, "Don't ask a fucking question, man." And I was like, "Question." I said, why do we not have bandwidth on demand instead of just charging people a fixed rate when they're only using very small amounts of that gig throughput or 100 gig throughput? Meaning they're pushing an app through maybe once a month, maybe twice a year, maybe never. Disaster recovery, go down the list. And he said, "That's a great question." He said, "It's a billing problem. We don't know how to bill for that. We know how to offer it. It's already there. We know how to meter it. We just don't know how to bill it." He goes, "If you can help me solve that problem, we've got a big business on our hands, Junior." And I remember thinking, holy shit, if AT&T has this legacy problem of, the only thing stopping us from that fucking awesome product is a billing problem? Is that like an Oregon Trail coding issue? Like, walk me through, like, when you just heard that, are you like, man, we've come a long fucking way? Or are you like, yeah, we have those problems still every day today. Large enterprises trying to solve big problems who are overthinking, and quite frankly, got there because they overdeveloped themselves in the first place, where they're not building agilely from the ground up like you guys are, where hopefully those problems cease to exist because legacy will not be a word in your vocabulary. It's a lot of questions.
I think that's the tenet of the world, isn't it? I mean, the pattern of the world is big companies do not innovate, right? They don't. And well, why didn't AT&T go after that billing problem? Because who fucking cares?
Yeah, they didn't care.
Right? Like, I got to go through 18 layers of bureaucracy and then go sell my shareholders on this, $50 million idea to go get, this much more market share. It's like, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Where, two guys in an RV would be like, dude, this much market share? Fucking let's go. It's like, that's just the way the world works, I think, and that's why acquisitions happen. It's like, you're never going to see, Microsoft isn't necessarily innovative. They're just bolt on. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying this for some listeners, but they're a holdings company for, products that have made their way into a go-to-market that fits. Right. And so all these big companies are doing that. Innovation will always be with the upset, passionate person that, just wants to say, you know what? Fuck all that. I think I can do better.
Yeah. Thank God, though.
Got a little ego in there.
Yeah.
You got a little pain in there. You got a little, chip on your shoulder in there.
Yeah.
Bureaucratic big companies, man, look, I got a good 401k. I'm not trying to rock the boat. I'm just trying to 9 to 5.
I took 3-hour lunches while I worked at AT&T too. This is a confessional. Sorry, I'm just going to come out. This is an amends. I'm sorry. I made a lot of money, made President's Club 2 years in a row, but I could not fuck around any more than I did there. Like, it was impossible to move a needle anyway. I didn't, show up and work hard. Don't care. Show up and don't work hard. Don't care. Like, they're either going to buy it or they won't. The engineer's going to come in. He's either going to know what he's talking about, she or he, and or they're going to give a shit.
It's a great gig, man. Yeah. Everybody's happy.
I'm one of you guys though. Like, I'm one of where Mark stood out. I don't know, making $200K a year, like Scotch lunches, like basketball 3-hour lunches. And I was like, God, this is boring. Like, I need some drama in my life. Now, looking back at the people who stayed there, 15 years later, they seem to be mentally healthy and doing just fine. I, on the other hand, went through some shit. So
I don't do that. The three of us I think are all wired the same way.
And
like, I can't.
Yeah, you can't do it.
I'd rather burn the house down trying to do something cool. Yeah. Like, I'm not risk averse. Mark's not risk averse. You're obviously not. Like,
yeah.
We're going to be okay. Tomorrow, if this doesn't work out, we'll go back to the thing and we'll make, probably good money doing it. But right now, there's this thing we're chasing, and I'm down for chasing it. I want to see cool shit go.
Yeah.
And that's that. I think that's a mentality that, the corporate world, it doesn't promote very much,
Yeah, I was about to say, like, even if you're motivated, even if you've got a company that's pouring money into innovation, and they're not going to be able to get around their large processes. If your means by which you're going to affect change is to start with a memo, you know what you're dealing with there. And it may not be unmotivated people. It may just be like you were talking about with AT&T, like, you're talking about turning around the AT&T billing engine.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a ship that you just turn around on a dime, no matter how motivated you are. It's always going to be
legacy acquisitions, SQL databases. Mark, to your point, like, that's your world, man. I don't live there, but I think I understand.
Well, I'm talking even bureaucracy and getting things done and getting the approval to even build the thing. It's always going to be that smaller, more agile team that's going to be able to carve that new niche, or carve that new path out to getting something tried out and throw it out into the industry and try. Those are people that are going to be able to do that. And that's, again, one of the advantages that we've been trying to take advantage of with Kodiak, in that we're small. We can turn the ship on a dime, so we have the ability to do something radical. Yeah, it's true.
There's a really good book, circled around the technical world. It's called The Phoenix Project. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have.
But it describes big, David and Goliath. It describes the vapor lock that happens with these companies, right? Like CYA, bureaucracy, I don't know this, that's not my department, nobody, siloed information, siloed, teams not working with each other. It's just such a killer. And the Phoenix Project really sums it up. It really speaks to me because we were actually on a project like that. It's like, that's exactly where I never want to go again.
Yeah, ever.
You know, like my 7th circle of hell is going back to corporate. Just, I am not going back there.
Well, let's not go there then. Let's stay right here. Where are people, where do you guys today consume content that's relevant to the space which you exist in? So Mark, let's go with you first. One place you're going to wake up, the first place you go to consume content about not necessarily DevOps, but the world of DevOps. Where is that?
I'm usually Google. I usually like to go to Google because it'll give me that, well, here's what people tend to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
And then when I can sort of, you've done this before, I'm sure. You scan a little bit of the links and you get a good idea. You find out who's paying for advertising on what topics.
Yeah.
And then you start dialing into, maybe a particular player there. Like if I'm looking for a tech or I'm looking for a story, I'll see what is going on and then try to dial into a, particular site or a particular, provider, whether it's news or whether it's tech or if it's a company. There are companies too. I spend a lot of time walking the dog, and that's a great podcast time. So I do listen to a lot of various podcasts. And I'll in tech I'll just do a random search. I don't think I really focus in too much. Although I'll stay with one for a couple of weeks and then sort of move along. But I really, like I said, I'm following the topic more than anything else.
NPR, I found, has some really great podcasts. I'm a dog walker too now. Before I was just a walker.
Mm-hmm. How I Built This.
How I Built This is great.
Podcast.
My first million. I'm actually a big Andrew Huberman fan. I love science and the stuff that he's coming out with. Like, oh yeah, no shit. Like we didn't have science on mobile phones until just recently. And it is scary as fuck. Like the stuff that they're coming out with is like, hey guys, like, you knew it. Like it was, here we go, mental health.
That's the kind of stuff I like to focus in on too. Like
me too. And it just keeps me whole, man. If I go listen to too many podcasts on revenue, I just want to kind of go, these all suck. Because you're all talking about the same thing. Nobody's talking about a real problem. You're all acting like you've got this thing licked. And I always go, I want to show up to someone and say, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing, but I want to figure it out. I need the help of some good people. Are you one of those? Do you know anybody who is? Cool. Next. Boom. And I figure like that's the part of me that figures it out. But Ben, I'm going to go to you now. Where do you go to learn? I say learn and then observe on how to be a better, this has nothing to do with DevOps. That's a tough one. Better executive, better leader of a company that's going through what you are right now. Where do you get your chops sharpened? Where do you get your iron sharpened? Is it Mark? Is it iron sharpen iron?
Well, yeah, that's it. That's actually a really good question, I think. Earlier in the podcast, we talked about, or you mentioned, you don't have a co-founder. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, Mark and I, we were just talking about this, I think last week. It's like, I think Mark said it first and I was going to say it, but he didn't, but we were on the phone talking about something and he was like, what I've found is these people that sound like they have this voice of authority, honestly, Ben, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Like nobody across the board, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Everybody's just fucking full of shit. And I was like, yeah. And, I think you're right. But like having a co-founder really does, it really helps a lot. It's part therapist, part, check your shit, part second pair of eyes, helps with decision making. There's constantly from an executive perspective, we're constantly just collaborating. We're like, throw out an idea, dumb idea, or throw out an idea, good idea, needs some work. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Like what happens when this happens? Like I get that on a phone call. Boom. Like I get my guy, it's like Days of Thunder, right?
Yeah.
One of us is driving the car. One of us is on the walkie-talkie.
Ricky Bobby.
Yeah. It's like, so yeah, I think from an executive perspective, like, Mark and I can help each other a lot, but from a content perspective, like where are we getting these ideas, or how are we seeing the industry? For a long time, we didn't even look at the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Like we knew what we wanted to build, and we just didn't look at the industry because we didn't want to like taint the brain.
Yes.
Right? Now, I get tired of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go. Reddit is where I go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Reddit quite a bit, and I'm just trolling. I'm just looking. I'm not contributing. But the questions that are asked, the problems that they're trying to solve, I get so angry with it. Like, it's like, dude, you guys are in the fucking basement, soldering wires together. You fucking people.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. They don't know about Codiac.
Yeah.
But it's like,
as you're lurking,
I get frustrated with myself. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, I need to go talk to these guys. Like,
Well,
they need to know there's a better way.
they
But yeah,
can
Reddit's
find out.
a great spot.
got to find you on the internet though, and this is where I want to talk to you guys, because it would. I went on and prepped, and I typed in DevOps in YouTube, right? And of course, there is no shortage of people with great thumbnails going, "Welcome to the world of DevOps, where we're going to discuss the 5 trending topics going on this week." And speaking of people living in their mother's basement, I can't stand those kind of content creators who like find a niche just because they did their research. They're like not in the space, and they're like, "I'm going to do a news feed on DevOps and just chat GPT." But you know what? Fucking good for them. Like, they have some followers. Like,
Busy though.
it's busy. It's
so much
crazy. I
crap
feel like I'm
out
having a panic attack when I watch it. I'm just like, geez. Now, when you look a year back from now in a year, where are people going to be able to find you in a year? Because right now, Ben, Mark, you've both started to get active, and that's awesome, right? But I imagine that this crusade of content, it sounds like you got some big commitment on your end to showing up for it, which content takes time. It's passive to a degree.
Yep.
Like, where are you going to be? Where are we going to find you in a year? Remember, I said a year, not now. And so paint that picture for me, because it's going to kind of tell me where I can find you now, because a year happens quick, and it could be tomorrow with as fast as y'all move.
Yeah, I'll let Ben conjecture about where our marketing and PR plan is going to be. I know that one of the things that we've been really striving to do is get the product under control, and I mean just in terms of operationally, so that we can reach out a lot more. We've been tightly tasked, super busy trying to, really overloaded days trying to get this thing out to market and get it where it needs to be. But at the same time, trying to get out to expos and trying to get onto YouTube and trying to get very active in the development communities, and also in the software release communities. That's a huge part of what we're wanting to do, and that's certainly what I want to do, because again, I love what I do, and I really very authentically believe that the things that we're building are going to help people actually enjoy their careers more. Like, I love watching customers pick this up, because they do actually enjoy it. We had a couple people say, like, this is the first product I've seen that actually is looking out for us, the developers.
Yeah.
Like, most of the things are saying, I'm getting it done, and here's how to do it, and good luck to you if you can figure it out. But we're really actively trying to make these guys' lives better. And I love that, and I love talking to people about it. And again, about the technology. So there's definitely going to be, between, outreach in social media, and outreach at YouTube, and providing, whether it's explainer videos or how-to videos, or getting involved in different community aspects on locations at certain places and whatever. That's really what we're striving to do.
I'm going to pass a business idea for you guys as we close up here, and we're going to talk about where they can find you. And if I'm a software, if I'm developing software, or if I'm not, if I've already developed it and I want to know if this is for me, we're going to get to that. But why doesn't someone have this product for RevOps, where instead of buying all this fucking software, I can just tap into the cloud, into a vein, and say a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little video, a little email from Apollo, a little data, but I don't want to fucking pay every month. And I don't want to over purchase, because God, that is also the death of startups. It's just like, holy shit, you turn your head, you got $6,000 a month. You thought you bought a Zoom seat, and suddenly, like, what the fuck? And so I'm going, you give me an idea. Now you're probably going to tell me why it isn't a good idea. But that's where my brain goes, is why don't I just build Codiac Part 2? I'll go to you guys. We'll build it. You'll own 50% of the company. Let's go. Is that possible? Because did we just come up with an idea? Look at that. Mark's in.
I spit. Yeah. I mean,
let's go.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah. I was disenfranchised. I came out of the tech, the tech side of Codiac, and I got into the revenue side of Codiac this past, year and a half. And yeah, I was unpleasantly surprised. Like, there it is
Disenfranchised.
again. This totally disenfranchised. Like this pattern of DevOps is over here in revenue. Yeah. And so I called Mark. I was yelling at him, like they're using fucking spreadsheets for everything. They're chaining all this CSV crap together. It's atrocious. Yeah. So I think it could be done. It could be done. I think RevOps is still young, and there's still a lot to like. Developers haven't really sunk their teeth into integration there yet, like they have with DevOps.
Yeah, you're right.
So the reason why Codiac is successful as a product is because we have very clear integration points that we can rely, that Codiac can rely on for this part of the cloud or that thing or this or that. So like Kodiak just
you support them. You don't just randomly have them.
Tying together ZoomInfo with Ocean AI, with Gong, with this and that and the other. You don't have quite the clearest integration points, but it's not to say that can't be done. It's just we haven't put our focus to it.
Someone's got to challenge their model.
Where it needs to go.
Yeah,
I think that's where it. I think personally, VCs are going to start funding abstractions like Codiac a lot more.
Yeah.
I think that's where the future, that's where things are going. AI is a freaking abstraction, right? Mm-hmm. Like abstractions as a service, like, hey, there's these technical things or there's these siloed things. Take these TV apps these days. I don't know what you guys use, but I use Chromecast.
Yep.
Or Roku.
Yep. Chromecast.
Right? Like you add the apps, and then you have a dashboard with all your apps on it, and you pick, this app or that app, and so that's just an abstraction.
And if I want to watch it by a movie, I buy a movie. If I want to rent it, I rent it.
Yeah. And that's the business. This next.
Where's Kodiak gonna be in 1 year? Tell us, 20 seconds or less. Where are you gonna be in 1 year and why? Because I used to say, well, you can get there, but why are you gonna be there? And then where can people find you? So Ben, you first. Where are you going to be in a year? And then where can people find you, Ben, and Codiac online? Then Mark, we're going to pop over to you.
Yeah, no. So we're gonna be hitting events a lot. You're gonna find us sort of preaching the gospel on where these abstractions live and how they fit in systems and how they work with teams. So we're a team focused business. We want software development teams to be productive. So we're really going to be focusing on the life cycles of software development, the teams and the interactions, not just technical, but non-technical, product managers, CTOs, VPs of engineering, these types of people that are underserved in DevOps right now. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking to them a lot.
Yeah.
So those channels, those people, how can you get a hold of us? Codiac with C's.io. We're on LinkedIn and hopefully our YouTube channel is a year from now blowing up.
They say the thing with YouTube is it gets better with time. I like that you know that. I mean, a lot of people want to hit YouTube and hit the ground running. It's the opposite of LinkedIn. LinkedIn posts takes hits, less traction over time, different algorithm. YouTube, the more it shows up. A lot of posts don't go viral for a year and a half or two. And then you're like, shit, I was talking about COVID. Whoops. And so I always tell people in content creation, don't talk about what's going on today. Talk about the subject, because the second you talk about today, you've ruined the trust, because they're like, this guy's an idiot. He's in his kid's bedroom in COVID. That was like 24 years ago. But Mark, where are you going to be in a year? Same place as Mark looking back? Or are you going to be on your cycle a little 20 feet ahead or to the left?
It's going to be exactly what Ben said, I think. I mean, really, I'd second it with the fact that if very simply, we can get people to understand that there is an alternative, mm-hmm. and it actually works. There are new patterns that actually take you further than what you're currently working with. That's the one, if not only thing I would be happy with actually getting out to the world. If everybody understood that, and then they hopped on over to Kodiak.io to check it out and try it, take it for a spin and see what that's about. Open your mind a little bit, take a different approach to it, and you'll see like huge differences there. I would love to have somebody say that in a year without me prompting them. Hey, you got to check out Kodiak. We used it. It was intense. That's basically all gonna, hopefully when Kodiak.io describes that point and drives it. We learn how to, especially through, when it comes to communicating these difficult, these very difficult technical concepts to people that are entrenched in a different way of thinking. Hopefully that site will actually deliver that message in the way that needs to go.
I love talking to you guys. This is fun. I mean, it's a little daunting. Like I have to kind of refresh my DevOps and Kubernetes, but you got my research this week and I'm like, this space is fucking hype. Like there's a lot of shit going on here. Like it's way more exciting than the revenue space. Way more exciting.
It's huge. I mean, the problem I think, Steve, is it's a little bit long in the tooth too.
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of products out there. There's a lot of it's a busy part of the industry right now, but it's also the most undone. Like there's not a good solution yet.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen, there's some incumbents, but I haven't seen, one in the industry right now that's just like, okay, finally DevOps is just off the table, So yeah, I think on the RevOps side, you got, what would you consider the big boys? You got ZoomInfo, Apollo, and then you're chaining everything else down. Right?
RevOps, depends where you put the point of
HubSpot.
demarcation. I guess RevOps is CRM down technically. So, you've got the biggest part of it, which is never going to be a cloud consumable. Salesforce would be smart to charge you for your usage. HubSpot did, but they just charge you for your contacts. And so they're doing it the wrong way, but like nobody's there yet to point the point of demarcation. Like where does RevOps own it versus where does operations own it? And I think it's a really good, nobody really knows and everybody's an expert. Nobody is, right? Chris Walker, they all say, he's right.
Yeah, that's true in a lot of different walks of life right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of industries that are feeling exactly that problem. Like exactly which type of staff do we need? Who should be doing this job? Exactly. How do we get that done with what software?
I've got a lot of thoughts just listening to you guys. As a builder, it's interesting to know we have agile partners out there. My mind is a builder, right? So you always want to go, well, if I only had this, and pretty soon you go, well, I could get a code developer. I could get a really kick-ass company like Codiac to spin up and spin into DevOps day one. I could go into zombie mode and say when I'm not using the cloud to never have to spend on the cloud and do this. And pretty soon it's a little less daunting for a builder. And I'm like you, Mark, and probably a lot like you, Ben. Like, I'm a little weird. Like it doesn't have to work all the time. I just want to build. Like I want it to work. Trust me. But I'd rather fail building 9 things that didn't work to get to the 10th one that did, because the 10th one's going to work because of the 9 times you failed. And I believe that. And I think that there's only so much life cycle, though, that we can keep failing in DevOps or eating up time before people go, it's not working. And I love that you guys came in and said, fuck, enough's enough. Like bullshit. Like we're not a part of that crowd. We don't want to be. We want to support that crowd, get better. And if you're listening to this saying like these guys struck a chord with me, just hit them up, DM them on LinkedIn. They're really, really nice guys. Mark is scary at first because he knows so much. Ben is a little bit quiet, but they both get very passionate. And if you're a founder out there, a CEO of a startup going, man, what the fuck? Back up. I think this could be of use to me. Just reach out to them. Like that's the kind of guys they are. They're not going to try and close you day one. They're going to say, like they said, sign up. It's free. Tell us what you think. We're here to help if you need us. Like what a great kind of extension, right? Versus a product like growth where all of a sudden I'm in a 72-page drip campaign. The last time I was in a drip campaign, it was college. It did not end well. So with that was a joke. Nobody laughed. The drip campaign, 72 days. It's a little bit long, guys. We're going to end this.
Put it in post.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to use that for a post. Yeah. Mark and Ben from Codiac, 2cs.io. I appreciate your time, gentlemen. Thank you for showing up for the Magnetic Podcast. Mark and Ben, you guys are gems. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
it.
the
It was really
time.
fun.